Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being the show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 6 of Your Honor. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with the Desire and Baxter stuff. So with the Desire stuff, obviously, Big Mo is... Obviously, she doesn't have any product right now, so she's still selling the fentanyl lace stuff, but it's like, cool, this is the only way we're going to be able to make money for right now, but the last thing we need is bodies dropping in our neighborhood. So, what we're going to do is, we are going to cut this so thin, might not be worth that big of a high, but who cares, bodies won't be dropping. And at the very least, even if there are bodies dropping, we're going to sell the product in a different neighborhood, that way it doesn't fall back on us when bodies do fall, if they fall, because just not trying to cut it as much as they can to nullify, because I love that representation of Big Mo being like, this is how much is in like one little baggie, and it's like it takes this amount of, I think she gave him showed 30 grams or something like that. Then all of a sudden it's also oh, here's 3 grams of fentanyl is enough to kill anybody. She was 30 grams is enough to make a grown adult overdose, but all it takes is that small 3 grams of fentanyl to kill anybody. So that ends up being what she's like, all right, we're going to make this work, we're going to make this happen, and also getting Eugene out of town, which I love that Eugene tried to talk to her about, right, what about Little Mo, what about your sister, why don't y'all talk? And she's like, well, that's not up to me. It's as someone who lost his entire family, it's I would give anything to be with my family. I would never let anything ever get in the way. And she's like, okay, you done with your little sermon? And I think it did strike a chord with her, because no matter what, regardless of her wanting to be yeah, Lil Mo, he's not family anymore. It's that still is your family. That is your blood. And it's when it's all said and done, sometimes family's all you have, And so when she's with her girlfriend later on, you could tell it really kind of struck a chord with her. And, she's asking her, hey, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? It's yeah, don't ask, don't tell. She's trying to figure this all out, because the Little Mo situation, because yeah, that's her family, that's her nephew, but it's also he's been her ride or die. He's been by her side throughout this all. And I think it has gotten her, Eugene in particular, has gotten her questioning everything related to, family in that conversation. So sadly, Joey shows up in the picture. I was like, oh boy, when he rolls up on Desire's, where they're cutting the drugs, because he's trying to get some. And it's man, he's fallen super hard on, far on hard times. I stumbled to get that out. And he ends up taking a picture of Eugene. I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this to be how it goes down. And he lets Carlo know. I was almost hoping when Carlo beat the crap out of him upon first seeing him, I was like, man, please tell me Carlo's going to beat the crap out of him before he even has a chance. But it's nope, here's that kid. Carlo was ready to hey, we're going to follow them, get me close enough, and then I'm going to shoot him. Joey, being an idiot, rammed into him, ends up dying on impact. So it's cool, you don't even have to be alive to suffer the ramifications for it. And at the end of the day, Eugene's still alive, Carlo's stuck in the car, his gun's outside of the car, and Eugene had the opportunity to put a bullet in him. And that's what sucks so much. Eugene could have killed you. He would have been justified. Doesn't make it, 2 wrongs don't make a right, But in the context of the situation, not it'd still be the wrong thing to do, but understandably from Eugene's perspective, it's you beat my brother to death for no reason. My brother had nothing to do with your brother's death, and then on top of that, your dad killed my entire family. I have nothing, I have no one, and you took that away from me, and you're talking fuck me? No, fuck you. Because you still tried to come and kill me. It's I had you want to be pissed at me for coming out. That's the only reason why you're coming after me, because I took a shot at you and missed. It's I don't know whether he's really doing that also because it's right, you ended up killing Adam, and Adam meant a lot to Fia. Now, her son, my nephew's going to have to grow up without a father. I don't know if that's it, or I don't look at it as altruistic as that. I think it's just, he's nah, you tried to take a shot at me, I'm going to go after you. But it's you did beat his brother to death. What do you expect? So, but he had every reason to do it, and he didn't. Which if I was Carlo, but Carlo's the prideful person that he is, I think it speaks volumes that he went. I feel like it's kind of messed up that he went kind of crying to mom and dad about yeah, Eugene was still alive, but he got away. I was kid spared your life. That would have been, in my mind, it's all right, there's no evening the playing field. It's this cycle, because it's like, you didn't have to do what you did. You didn't have to leave with Joey. You didn't have to leave your nephew who you were babysitting for your sister. You didn't have to leave him alone with like the person you're hooking up with, you know? He should have stopped at multiple, like, at very least, I think, honestly, you shouldn't have said anything about you. Eugene spared your life. He had you dead to rights. You heard every reason why he was justified in killing you, and he didn't. And you still were like, yeah, mom, dad, he's alive. It makes you, it's so infuriating. And it's like, now, like, the Baxters are hell-bent on going after him, and it just made Fia go like, you know what, I'm done with this family. Especially because Gina dragged her to the church and everything. If I'm not mistaken, that's, oh god. He was in season 1 and season 2 of City on a Hill, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's like, what, Mark O'Brien? I think that's him. I'm blanking on, Jonathan Tucker's character, in, season 1 of City on a Hill. His brother, he was also in season 2, but he's this priest, and he's talking to Fia, and I liked his perspective on things. He's like, yeah, my job isn't here to kind of like force feed you Catholicism and kind of try and get you to join. It's like, no, my thing is to kind of, because his thing is always kind of about kind of the aftermath. It's like, yeah, I'm always typically brought in the aftermath of, like, you know, the next stage of life for people. Like, that's kind of the role I feel. A baptism is beautiful because now it's all about like a fresh start, a new beginning, because it's like, yeah, it's about honoring your baby's name, because a name is very important. Rocco, named after the uncle that's no longer here. Adam, for the father that's no longer here. And then the Baxter for the family name. It's like, that's a beautiful representation, and it's like, that's what we're going to be honoring. The fact is, he's like, I'm not asking you to kind of like, that's what, like, he's like, yeah, I'm going to be like handling it on more like holy religious level, but that doesn't have to be your, I appreciate him meeting Fia halfway instead of trying to shove it down her throat like her mom does. So spinning it that way, it really resonated with Fia, especially because he's like he's like one of those cool priests, you know? So that was kind of nice. But just when she's like, reconsidering all that, all of this has to go down. It's like, right. Now she's going to second guess, should I really have Carla? It's like, I mean, Carla made a point. He said last episode, you are stronger than all of us. I know he's not, I know Rocco isn't going to end up like mom or dad because you didn't. Because he's going to end up more like you. He's like, I would also know because I'm more like mom and dad, and this just solidifies that. So for Fia, it's like, you know what, I'm done with this family. I am done. So she's probably not going to go through with the baptism. We'll have to wait and see. Definitely probably not going to go through with Rocco being the godfather. It's like, after you pulled this stunt, no. This was supposed to be your first outing as a godfather, and you failed spectacularly. So... And it sucks, too, because Jimmy's already got this guff he's got to deal with his father-in-law, because he's like, yeah, I got the waterfront deal and stuff like that, but his father-in-law wants him to meet with other kind of crime families, and they want to take advantage of the port situation. But for Jimmy, it's like, no, like, I'm a businessman, I don't mix up in drugs. And now that ends up being a point of contention between him and his father-in-law, because his father-in-law, once again, it's like, you only get by because of my name. That's the only reason why you get to go as far as you do. But then Jimmy was like, yo, you benefit from the businesses I built. This hotel, for example, it's made you rich. Basically, put some damn respect on my name as a businessman and what I'm able to accomplish, what I'm able to do. But the real reason why his father-in-law has such an issue with Jimmy is because he feels like Jimmy tries to walk both lines. He tries to be the businessman when he needs to be, but also be the thug when he needs to be. It's like, you don't get to play that. You are what you are. At the end of the day, you are a thug just like me. You're a gangster. You can't hide that. You want to like spruce yourself up in the suit and want to act all business-like, try to pretend like you aren't who you are. It is what you are. You try to deny it, you try to run from it. You want to act like you're better than me. You're not. We're exactly the same. And him trying to make an example of Jimmy at the hospital being like, yo, basically nut up. Like, yeah, you're talking about you want to handle this situation. It's like, right, this is a family thing. You take care of your family and you should handle this like Eugene kid thing. And Jimmy can't do anything to Gina's dad, and his right-hand guy named Frankie, yeah, he beats the ever-living shit out of Frankie. I was almost wondering, like, are you about to kill Frankie in the hospital? It's like, no, but it's like you're taking all your frustrations out on him because, well, he's kind of a symptom of it being like, yeah, I agree, like, we need to make a move, and that just pissed Jimmy off because it's like, last thing I need is another fucking person telling me what to do. I've got my wife breathing down my neck. I've got my father-in-law breathing down my neck, talking down to me like he owns me, and I have to keep my mouth shut. I have to take it. I was almost expecting at any point in time for Jimmy to pop off on his father-in-law, but never did because he knows he probably can. Now also, like, your daughter hates you. You need this. Now you find out Eugene's actually still alive, so everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. I knew it was only a matter of time before the Eugene situation blew up the way it is. I mean, like, he is back in New Orleans. I knew. I was actually super surprised he didn't pull the trigger. I was halfway expecting him to pull the trigger on Carlo. I was like, who's going to get to the gun first? Whoever does is definitely going to pull the trigger. Because if Carlo got the opportunity, he would have definitely put Eugene down regardless of it all. But when it's all said and done, a cop rolls up on the scene. Is that not Ray? Maybe it's not Ray. Isn't that Ray, like, Desired's, like, guy? And he confronts one of the Desire people, the one that was in the car with Eugene. It's like, let me talk to you for a minute. And then later on, like, Big Mo comes in and is like, why are you guys so, like, solemn? And Home Dude's like, yeah, my brother, like, took one. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be, like, it sounded like a thing of, like, he's dead. Like, Ray might have beat that out of him or something like that. And I was like, why would you? Because you're supposed to be on the payroll, but not unless I'm confusing him with a different cop. Maybe that's not Ray. Maybe that's the other cop that's involved in this episode. We'll get to that side of things. But yeah, he ended up, I guess, getting the information out of Home Dude, killing him, and now they end up, I'm guessing maybe. Or maybe it's like he did that and they gave that information to the other cop who's kind of isn't that Ray? I don't think, because Ray's not the other cop in the regards of, like, the other aspect of the episode. Ray's not that cop that's kind of being brought about, because I'm pretty sure it's like, yeah, because not unless that's Ray's middle name or something like that. Because I was like, the name of the cop they dropped, I was like, doesn't sound like any cop we've dealt with over the course of the show, is it? So that's why I'm kind of confused, especially by the ending. I'm like, is that supposed to be Ray? I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to Ray to really, know if that was him or not, or whether those were two separate cops. I feel super racist in this moment because I'm like, is that the same cop? I actually can't tell. I didn't look quickly. It looked like it was Ray, but I'm not sure. All I know is the ending of it is super jacked up because you're like, no, after everything, once again, leaving him alive, after everything, Eugene catching a bullet like that. He did, it's most likely he's dead. Also, it's super public. It's at a bus station, too. Or you going to say, like, he was a criminal? Like, how are you going to excuse that? There are witnesses around. Like, how are you going to just shoot him and then bounce? That's like, I don't know how you do that, Because that's why I'm like, it can't be the same person. Like, and also, you did it with a silencer, too. Like, are you just going to pay people off? Like, once again, he was in the middle of the bus line. Like, how are you going to justify that? I don't know how the hell you're going to let that slide, not unless he's like, I'm willing to take the fall just because it's going to be worth it in the end. I don't know. Maybe it's also because, like, right, I have to kill him because it's going to fall back on me. If I don't handle this, and I don't know. Not unless the Baxters paid him enough to be like, switch allegiances or whatever. Because he already had issues with the Desire situation, so he probably found employment elsewhere with the Baxters. Maybe, I don't know. It just sucks. After everything, Eugene ends up. You'd assume he's dead, not unless he ends up at the hospital or something like that, fighting for his life. But it's just like, that sucks. Because if he dies too, it's like, right, he was supposed to go back to Houston and everything. So it's definitely going to lead to, like, the Baxters having issues with, like, right, Desire set this whole thing up, so they've got beef, and I'm sure Big Mo's not going to appreciate all of this. Which is so interesting, too, because both of them are having to deal with a complicated drug thing, because it's like, right, well, she's got her issues she's got to deal with, plus the whole Roderick thing. Now Jimmy's got to deal with, like, his father-in-law and all that stuff of, like, what they're going to bring in and out the port, So that is one side of the episode. The other side involves picking up with Nancy confronting Michael, which I'm like, yo, did we know? Because I did not rewatch season 1 prior to season 2. I just didn't have time, and I just want to go ahead and jump into season 2. But did we know about that affair situation? I don't think that ever came up last season. I was like, that's some new information. It's like, whoa, Robin was having an affair when she died. And Michael apparently confronted the guy. We find out later on his name is Kenneth. Confronted the guy who they were having an affair with. And Nancy's like, yo, did you? And he was like, if you are not actually charging me, you don't have enough. But you did parade me around in handcuffs. You made sure to bring me in. And Nancy was like, oops. That was her being a little spiteful, but it's like, yeah, now questions are arising because she never wanted to push too hard last time because, hey, you were a grieving husband, you had you were a widow now, like, you were, like, taking care of your son, but now it's like, at the time, I never considered, like, you'd be possible of doing something like that, but now, like, after everything that's going down, I know what you're capable of, and who's to say killing your wife isn't on that list? Well, he's able to walk, and his mother-in-law picks him up. Elizabeth, it's like, no, I thought about it for a little. He's like, really? But she's like, honestly, I know who you are, and you wouldn't be capable of doing that. So it turns out Elizabeth knew, too, about the affair. And she said this line where she was just like, I told her not to marry you. He was like, really, Elizabeth? And it's like, she's like, no, it's not because of you. It's because of Robin. She just didn't love you enough. And it's just kind of like, I think from her perspective, it's like, I wish like she hadn't married you because like, why marry and commit to someone that obviously you didn't like? Because he was like, yeah, we had good times. And she's like, I know you did. Because he tried to be like, yeah, it wasn't a perfect marriage, but I wasn't like a monster, a terrible husband. It was a situation of maybe it was just like she wasn't getting what she needed from that relationship. I mean, that's the main reason why anyone cheats, whether it's emotionally, mentally, or physically, you're not getting what you need from a relationship. That's the motivation behind cheating, I think. So she just didn't love Michael enough, and maybe she loved Kenneth more. Either way, and having Elizabeth kind of say that was kind of really interesting. But they end up going to talk to Kenneth. And it's like, yeah, they are perfectly each other's alibi because at the time of Robin's death, they were both talking to each other. Even Kenneth was like, I never came forward about it. He's the reason why the cops like know about all of this, that him and Michael talked to each other the night of Robin's death, because apparently there was someone that he used to... a source for one of his stories, like it's like a gangbanger or whatever, and get less charged for Grand Theft Auto, he ended up selling out Kenneth, like use some valuable information like that. So that's how this all kind of snowballed into what it is. But it's all, apparently Robin was working on something, because Michael was like, wait. Weren't you on the phone with her? He was like, no, she didn't call me that night. So it's like, okay, so the person she was most likely on the phone with was KJ, like the source, because KJ was like a person he was trying to get a story about. Like basically there were some gang leaders dying, and it's like, yeah, it wasn't just gang warfare. It was a cop that was killing these people. So there's like a dirty cop out there killing. I don't know if that's that person playing both sides or whether they're a hitman for a third party. Could be a Baxter type of situation. Either way, they eventually go and talk to KJ. Well, the lady that ran that was working at the convenience store at the time, it's like, oh, you're the husband. But it wasn't until Elizabeth was like, please, do you have any children? She's like, yeah, 2. And it's like, for her, Elizabeth, it's like, I need answers. Because even Michael was like, you don't want to go down that route. He knows first, it's like, knowing doesn't change anything. She's like, yeah, but as a mother, I still need to know. And she told, because KJ was like, right, you don't want these nightmares, you don't want this. But she's like, don't tell me what I want. I've had nightmares running scenarios through my head ever since it happened. Like, I lost my baby girl. I had to bury her. I've had to bury 2 of my children. It's just too much to bear. Because she even says later on, like, she knew it wouldn't give her resolution. But knowing, for her, it's like, I needed Robin to know I hadn't given up. I needed Robin to know that I still loved her and I cared enough to keep digging. Even if it didn't bring me solace, like you told me it wouldn't, but she still needed to do this for Robin's sake, for her own sake. And so it turns out KJ was involved with the cop. The cop would give him drugs for the information, but then it turned into other things. And apparently, like, hey, I was a person that this person would bare their heart and soul to about every terrible thing that they would do, and I just had enough. And when Robin came to him about the story about police brutality, KJ's like, I should have kept my mouth shut, but I thought, like, my life's over. Why does it matter? And Robin, apparently KJ's not the one she was on the phone with. And you're like, wait, what? So then who was she on the phone with? And then all of a sudden, like, because KJ's like, if she had actually called me to ask to meet up, I wouldn't be there. She rolled up on me because she knew, like, okay, I don't want to spook you. But it was a masked person that rolled up. Like, apparently Robin didn't even see it coming and got popped. And he's like, I'm sure it's this particular cop. So now part of me wonders, is that who Robin was talking? Like, did Robin call someone up being like, hey, I think I have this information about this dirty cop or whatever, but maybe she didn't know the cop's name and the cop who answered happened to be the dirty cop. That could be it, or not unless someone else was covering their back. But because we never found out who Robin was on the phone with then. If it wasn't KJ and it wasn't Kenneth, then who? So obviously this was all a lot for Elizabeth, and it's like, right, and even Michael apologizing, being like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry I wasn't there after Robin's death. But she's like, you had your own grief to deal with. He's like, yeah, but I had Adam, and I never took the time to really think about, like, right, in that moment, you needed us the most, especially because Adam was it was like having a piece of Robin still with you. And he's like, I was going to tell you, I'm not sure when, but now's probably the best time to tell you. Fia has a child. It's Adam's. It's like, you're a great grandmother. And it's like, oh, how do they look? He's like, I've seen him and he's perfect. And I was like, and him like holding her like that. I was like, I thought that was beautiful. So I'm curious how this all plays out and how this is all going to play into Olivia's situation, because she did contact Michael, which I love him being like, duck you. And when he's trying to say fuck you, but it autocorrected to duck, it's just like, oh. But it's like, yeah, I'm wondering, is this going to be enough motivation to draw him back to Olivia? And it's like, all right, especially if it's like, I'll help you with this whole Baxter thing if it means taking down the person who killed Robin. Which he does call up Nancy, and he's like, hey, Nancy, the reason why you couldn't solve this, it's like, yo, we've had our issues, but it's like, yo, this is important. You want to take down bad guys, and it's like, right, I'll talk to you immediately the moment I get there. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the aftermath of all of this is, where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. We're down to the back half of we're over the back half of the season, so we only got 4 episodes left? Yeah, 4 episodes left, potentially. If this season's 10 episodes like last season, not unless it ends up being a shorter final seasons and all that. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.